What's going on, you guys? My name is Kyle Dabrow, and I'm the host of the Home Field Podcast. So, what we're going to do here today is we're going to do a quick preview to Game 2 of the NBA Finals between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat. So, currently, as it stands, the Lakers are up 1-0 in the series after beating the Heat 116-98 in Game 1. I thought the Lakers looked really good in the first game of the series. I thought Anthony Davis played extremely well, scoring 34 points. And LeBron James as well, he chipped in with 25. And they also got good bench production from players like Alex Caruso, Rajon Rondo, and Kyle Kuzma. So as for the Heat, I thought the Heat looked really good for the first half of the first quarter, but it didn't last long as the Lakers were able to close the gap by the end of the first quarter. And then the Lakers just piled it on the Heat from that point forward. I mean, it got to a point where the Heat were down by 32 points in the third quarter. And at that point, the game was well out of reach. So not only was it tough on the scoreboard for the Heat also suffered some key injuries to some key players. So the Heat are probably going to be without Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo for Game 2. Both are listed as doubtful after Dragic tore his plantar fascia in his foot and Bam Adebayo suffered a shoulder injury. He probably re-aggravated that same shoulder injury that he had back in the Boston series in the Eastern Conference Finals. So as it stands right now, it looks like their status is doubtful. I would be surprised if they actually played Game 2. So with that said, at this point, what do we have for Game 2? I'll say this. Eric Spoelstra is going to have his work cut out to get this series back to 1-1. I think the one thing that we're going to see is we're going to see better matchups against Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So don't be surprised to see Myers Leonard to be inserted either into the starting lineup or to get valuable minutes off the bench. They're going to need somebody who's tall and can somewhat play defense against Anthony Davis. I mean, Myers Leonard is 7'1". He's the tallest guy on the roster. And at some point, you have to put somebody up against Anthony Davis. You can't allow him to do what he did in Game 1 and just take over the game. So not only that, I would expect Kendrick Nunn to get some valuable minutes as well. I thought actually he played pretty well in the second half after Goran Dragic left. Just looking at the stats here, Kendrick Nunn got 18 points, and he was their leading scorer off the bench. So they'll definitely need him to step up in a big way to fill those shoes from Goran Dragic not being there. Also, they're going to need some big games from their three-point shooter specialists. So Tyler Hero is going to have to step up. I believe he had 14 points in Game 1. Duncan Robinson, I don't think, put up any points in about 25 minutes of play. And I thought Jay Crowder played okay in the first quarter, but he cooled off significantly from that point forward. So really all of those players are going to need to step up in a big way to get this series back to 1-1 if you're the Heat. I think for the Lakers, I really wouldn't change much. I think for them, the main thing that they're going to have to focus on is the Heat are definitely going to come out with a sense of urgency. There's no way that they're going to take that Game 1 loss and not respond in some sort of way to get this series back to 1-1. So, I mean, just looking at what the Lakers did in Game 1, I mean, their starters scored 85 points to the Heat's 49. I mean, it's a 36-point differential between the starting squads. I think if they're able to get similar production from their starters and similar production from their bench, I think that'll be really helpful for them moving forward. And it showed me that the Lakers defense showed up in big ways. I mean, they were able to hold the Heat to under 100 points. And if they're able to get that type of defense from their starters and their bench players, it is going to be really tough for the Heat to get this series back to 1-1. So with all that said, I think Game 2 will be a lot more competitive than Game 1. I don't expect there to be at one point where the game's going to be a 30-point lead for either team. I think this game is going to be mostly around either a 10 to 15-point lead between either team. I think if the Heat really start out well and they're able to maintain good offense and keep defensive pressure on the Lakers, I could definitely see them getting this game. But I just think the Lakers have too much firepower here. I think with AD and LeBron, if the Heat are able to get matchups that they like, maybe that'll help. But I just think the Lakers have too much firepower with those two. And if they get decent play from their bench, I think the Lakers win this game fairly easily. Like I said, though, this game will be closer. It will be more competitive, but I got the Lakers winning this one 110 to 102, and they would be up 2-0 in the series. With all that said, though, that'll wrap this up. So don't forget to subscribe. I will be posting content weekly on here as well as what I post on my podcast. I usually drop about 2 episodes a week on my podcast, so definitely stay tuned for that. And then I will see you guys later. Take it easy.